Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We have the agenda, minutes, remarks from me, Bob Thompson, General Manager report, public comment, media questions, old business, facility planning update from Bob, lifetime golf membership program from Bob, status of delinquent accounts.
Microphone to share up there, do you?
Excuse me?
Just speak up a little. I can't hear you.
You got a mic?
Microphone works.
Okay. I'll just- Old business, facility planning update, Bob Thompson, lifetime golf membership program, Bob Thompson. Status of delinquent assessments, Pete Gomzak. Bylaws and resolutions committee and FO4 review, Dave Stevens. Discussion of budget, all directors. Motion to approve budget, Pete Gomzak. Pending action list, Bill Wentworth. New business advisory committee appointments. And adjournment for a session for legal matters, submitted by Dan Stursky, Secretary. Any additions or changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. President, I have two changes to the agenda.
All right.
There will be no minutes submitted to the board for approval this evening. With my apologies. That will be rectified by our next regular meeting.
Okay.
And secondly, Marie Gilmore, Recreation and Parks Committee appointment should be added to your appointments list.
Okay.
Those are the only changes I have.
Any other changes? My comments. I want to recognize a couple of things that are going on in the community just to help straighten out some things that are going around. There's a lot of energy. I've received quite a few emails about the report that the recycle containers at the South Fire Station were going to be removed. They are, to our knowledge, they are not going to be removed. They are not owned by Waste Management. They are not owned by Ocean Pines. They are owned by the county, and to our knowledge, there is no plan whatsoever to remove those containers. So there was a lot of concern about that, and again, to our knowledge, there is no plan to remove them. I want to thank everyone who came out to the public sessions that were held on the facilities planning as well as the budget sessions. They were well attended with lots of good ideas, a good exchange of positions, and I just want to thank everyone who came out to participate in that. Also want to thank those who took the opportunity to come to the recognition evening we had the other night for all the volunteers. It was well attended. A lot of good things, a lot of positives around that. And lastly, we've received a lot of emails and energy around the topic of margins on gas. Just to make sure we're clear, that was part of an overall discussion having to do with the budget. The board at this point has not done, nor do I anticipate them doing anything with setting margins or changing margins or anything like that. Our objective will be to be competitive to the rest of the market. So we did not and have not voted or changed anything having to do with margins at the marina. Again, we receive a lot of emails, and when we get that much energy around the topic, I think it's appropriate for us to set the record straight, at least as to where we are now. So with that, Bob, I'll turn it over to you for your general manager's report.
No. Thank you. Let this warm up. This is going to be short and sweet. I know we have budget. We have a couple of
things. I started to do something pretty long, but I was asked not to, so.
Who raised you that?
All right, Ms. Moore?
I didn't say a word.
Nice job, Terry.
All right, just a quick, some
Thank
quick
you.
updates. The other ones. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, quick update for you. Mr. Stevens has asked several times about the administration building, so, and it seems to be a point of concern, so I thought I'd just put it up here on the screen so everybody could see where the numbers are. You have it in your package, but basically, we replaced carpet that was installed in 1992 at a cost of $14,375 for the entire building. Furniture at a cost of $14,146. It varied on the age of the furniture in the building because we had some that was brought over from this building when there was some work done here. The age of the furniture ranged between purchased between 75 and 1985 for the majority of it. Office space, that's actually where we reconfigured the office space. Storage space, where we created the 2 additional storage areas in the building. In vertical blinds, we have not made any purchase, and those who have been there and tried to work them, you see they're falling apart. They are also, they're 27 years old. The furniture was between 30 and 40 years old, and the carpet, which was a base grade commercial carpet, should have an expected life 6 to 7 years. We had it for 20 years. Behind some of the desks, as I've stated many times before, when we started moving furniture, they were down to concrete. So this was something that was discussed on multiple occasions. I want to make sure I pointed that out. When it was first discussed, it was 20 September. I went into great detail to outline. That's an actual snapshot of the screen that I gave to the board at that time. If there's any question about that, you can refer to this particular link. It takes you right, and the time is 48 minutes, 50 seconds in. You can actually see the whole presentation on what the intention of the structure was for the building. Each step, I went through everything we were going to do there, and that was back in September. There was a follow-up, and I'm sorry I did not pull up the link. I just didn't take time to find it. This was out of the 15 November board meeting. These were the actual slides picked up and brought into this presentation to show when I gave the next update on the progress of the work. And then today, I'm giving the final picture on it. So I hope this clarifies any issues or concerns with the admin building, the work that was accomplished, and the cost associated with it. Grant funding, something we did that we've been looking at, which we're pretty excited about. We, as most know, we've received a grant for $106,000 for the police department, which that grant funding went towards a computer system that tied into the county system. So when our police officers log in, either here at the station or in their squad cars, they actually link to the county system, which links further out to the Maryland and the federal system, so they can see if they actually have, when they pull somebody over, a condition exists, they can actually see if they have a bad guy, what type of issues with it. So we're pleased that worked out very well for us. Officer Jen went to Valerie Mann's class, which was offered through the Salisbury Chamber, and that was the same one that Director Sikorsky went to about a month ago, I believe that. So we found the information we're getting back was very good following that class. Followed up with Valerie Mann, who I had spoken to several times leading up to the class. Engaged with her to seek out possibility of grants, what might be available for us. We hired her as a consultant to go and find grants, and she's found grants under public safety, shoreline restoration, economic development, general facility improvement, and just general grants. And we've identified 12 to 14 that we may be eligible for. So we're going to continue to explore those to see if there are ways to offset some of our funding moving forward. Grants range between 10 grand and 250 grand, depending on. Speaking with the police chief, one of the grants that comes available each year, as an example, and this was one of the smaller ones, was for bulletproof vests through Homeland Security. If you apply, a certain way that they can help offset the cost of the vest. There's grants out there that may allow us to offset the cost of our squad cars. Not entirely, but in all the grants vary. Some are matching funds, some are 15%, just a number of different ways to do it, but we are researching those to see if that's a possibility for funding solutions.
Is there a time frame for this research, a month, 2 months? I mean,
It's
I know
ongoing.
Grants are throughout the year.
Grants are throughout the year. We've got a list of grants that she recommended that we pursue. I'm putting you on a timeline to see when they're due. Some are pretty extensive paperwork-wise. We probably won't be able to get in this year, but they're year-over-year grants, so we'll be prepared for it. The other thing with grant funding, and this goes a little towards budget, I was going to wait, but it does feed into it. We talked about HR in the budget, HR support. And I mentioned last month other things that we all multitask and do different duties. Everyone kind of crosses over and helps in other departments. This would be an ideal place where I think I hesitated last month because I was waiting to get the exact information if we'd have grants, how many might be available. But this would be an ideal additional duty or responsibility of someone in HR to take this class and to continually keep us updated on the grant funding list, what might be available, and keep those grants moving throughout the year. Thank you.
Good.
Oh, quick, I don't think I heard you. How many people actually been trained or
We
participated?
got one employee
One.
and one director.
Okay, fine.
What did you think of the class?
I thought Valerie was extremely well informed. I also found her, after the class, I talked a bit about rates and what she actually charges to consult. And I found her extremely affordable.
Yes.
So as we use her, it's a very wise thing for Ocean Funds to do. She also has an online seminar coming up on grant finding, what's out there, and where to go and what to do. So whoever attended will watch that. You can pick it up by just going to our website.
There's some good opportunity out there for us to offset some of our costs. So. All right, the next thing I want to talk about, website, it was budgeted. It's not a project that's been forgotten. We've actually been working through it, looking at some of the goals we set out with when we're looking at website. We're looking for an update. We want to improve our communications, improve our marketing capabilities to include lead tracking as things occur. If you drive people to the website, navigation with the site, and search through a search feature. We're finding we have a lot of content, and we've met with 3 different companies now, and 3 very different companies, so we make sure that we're understanding and trying to seek out the right path when we're looking at new design. One of the things we've highlighted with each company is a search button. A lot of people, we have a lot of content on our site. The challenge is finding it. It's not as easy. So that's one of our high priorities. The other thing is easy to use. Update as different groups use our website. There's different parts of the community, different the voting groups or the other affiliated groups or the advisory committees actually can have pages on our site, and some do and they use it, some don't. We're looking to make some improvements where it's easier for them to use and update, so it's a smoother operation. Integration with our database, online bill pay, class registration online, purchasing of memberships. We'd like to get down to that path. That's something we've been working on with the one card. Last year we went to a new card that swiped and had the barcode on the back so we can start to implement some of these things. When we're talking with folks on the website, we're making sure they understand there are things we're looking to get into. 2 of the companies actually spoke directly with BDK that does our intern, John. Those that know John, who does our internal programming through Lanza, have already spoken to him to see how they might be able to connect, to make sure we can connect our database. Better organization for everyone, our owners, residents, and their guests using it. And all the companies that have looked at our website said there's a ton of content, there's a lot of information. It just, with all the updates, with all the new technology, it just doesn't, the ease of using it and flowing through it, it just isn't as seamless as it could be. We also recognize that a lot of folks are using mobile apps now. Those type of things, we need to get our website up to speed on those. So these are all part of the integration, looking at new design for the site.
I'm assuming about long term, we are looking at being able to manage this entire site ourselves without having to constantly go back to source companies that would change the site for us and do all that.
We do most of it now.
I'm just making sure
But yes.
that we're clear on it. Okay.
Yes.
Because consultants can suck you into a nice program. Next thing you know, you're going back to them for everything you want to update.
Well, and that's part of what we've been looking at. The companies have come in at different levels. One, from one extreme, where they come, they build it, you get the first month, and after that, you pay an hourly rate every time you engage with them. To the other side of the table, where you engage in a monthly contract, their price is lower up front, but they just have an ongoing update, and they work with you as things change, as they update. And then one right in the middle that did kind of a blend of the two. So we are looking at different options there to figure out what the best solution for us would be.
Did you establish a ballpark budget?
It's in we have.
If it's in the book, I
It's
missed it. I apologize.
it's in last year's.
Oh, okay.
We're still in
I
last.
definitely missed that.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. You wouldn't have seen it. It's in it, and we're working within our budget numbers from what was budgeted from last year.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, lawsuit, just a quick update. We have, for those that don't know, Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, we went down, we being myself, our controller, our Carmine, and our treasurer, Pete Gomsak, to the actual Court of Appeals. It was a very, very interesting day. We left here at 4 in the morning so we could get down there in time. It was in Richmond, so we could be there and hear the oral arguments. Our side got to state the case. The IRS attorney got to state the IRS position on it. Then our attorney spoke again. It was a very interactive and lively exchange between the attorneys and the three judges that sat on the panel. It was a very interesting. The attorneys in court cases that I've been to before usually get to state an entire case before any basic question and answers. That was not the case here. I think it's because it's an appellate court, and they were into it immediately, asking questions. All three judges had very pointed questions about the case. So it'll be interesting to see what the result may be there. The findings should come out 90 to 120 days following that date. And really, it could be as much as 6 months. It could be as short as 90 days. There's no set time frame of when the findings actually get issued. Okay, some things in Ocean Pines. Recently, last month I reported that the Northgate Bridge was hit. We repaired it. Well, a week and a half ago, the Northgate hardscaping got hit. That's the stone out front. The gentleman that hit it called it in. He just overcompensated and tagged some of the bricks. He's paid for it. We had the work repaired already. Another thing that we're doing, we've been doing live streaming on our videos. They're on the internet. But the other thing that we've started, the last presentation that we had, we're also streaming live on Channel 78. So those that are at home can actually watch our activities such as this live on 78. Just turn their channel to 78 and they see exactly what we're doing right now. So that's another piece. You'll notice over here this odd-looking unit on a tripod. That's actually a microphone. We've tried 3 or 4 different microphones. You guys haven't probably noticed them. From one that was a lot more expensive to that's actually one of the more cost-effective ones. But we're finding that's picking up, even when the folks talk, it's picking up the information really well, and the sound quality has improved last time we deployed this. So we're excited about that. Update on the casino monies. Year to date, $238,836. Now that's not January till now. That's just where we are total in the BB&T account for the funds. Keep in mind those funds are what we are in the budget to go towards the roads funds. That plus what we continue to get month over month is what we'd like to apply for the upcoming year. Tennis, wanted to update you very quickly. We started in August working on the tennis project. When I say tennis project, we have not spent the money that was in the budget to redo the hard courts. We've had this water issue down there for a number of years, so every couple of years we're spending a lot of money to replace the courts. And we keep having cracks in the courts. We recognize it, just paving it wasn't, it's just a reoccurring issue. So what we did was go a little deeper. We did the soil boring as I reported, back in the fall. Since then, we've done an erosion control, stormwater management, planning, topographical study, all the elements, and we've come up with a plan. The plan's been submitted to the county, where we're going to, the recommendation is that we put the new drainage system in around the courts, different piping, different setup, get the water flowing away from the courts so we don't have this expense every other year to replace the hard courts. It's too frequent. So we're trying to solve the issue and get the water away from it. I'll be coming back to you between now and the next board meeting with numbers. Right now, what we're finding is approximately $19,000 to do the work, which is inclusive of $14,000 approximately to replace the concrete. We have to take out one of the sidewalks to put the new piping in. The new piping and the work there is about $5,000. And Public Works can do this work. So it's a total of about $19,000 to do that drainage to get the water running away from the court system. And we're hoping that's a longer-term solution so we don't have to keep replacing the courts. If this works for us, and we're expecting it will because we did the soil boring, had several other folks come. I mean, I've reported this a couple of times, just as a recap. We believe this is going to help us, and if it works well on that side, we're going to go back and do it on the other side of the tennis court next year. The last thing that I want to bring up, and just things around the Pines and Dog Park, I've had a lot of questions, calls, concerns. Just so that everyone's aware from the board perspective, I've said this would be a spring project from the day we started. It's still intended to be a spring project. The folks did a fantastic job raising all the money. We have it in we had it a little longer range planning back in September, October that we'd make it spring. It's getting closer now, so we intend to do that. But we won't, for those folks that come in, and I'm not going to say which board member comes in, very regularly ask me when the dog park's starting. Mr. Unger.
My girls.
and your dogs. But it'll be something that we intend to start in the spring.
I will be, I'm in touch with Jack, who's in Florida, and I'll be getting in touch with the other people that have an interest over the next couple of weeks and sit down and put together the way we're going to do it, how we're going to run, what the cost is going to be. It's going to be kept very simple. And then I'll let you know.
Okay?
Excuse me, Bob.
Yes, sir.
This is an association project, is it not?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we will be developing the rules and how it
Yes.
operates and so forth, not the volunteers.
That's right.
Thank you.
But what we want to do is have a committee
I understand.
help us develop.
I just want to reinforce that it's us.
Yeah, I'll tell you, from a final perspective, I'll take whatever the committee puts together and review it to make sure, A, we can implement it, how it impacts our staff. We'll look at that. But having a committee with experienced folks, we have a lot of folks in the committee that
I
have
applaud
experience.
that. But at the end of the day, it's us.
Yes.
So it's gonna come to the board, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Well, it's
well, whatever. I mean, it's the association, whatever, yeah.
Bobby's going to run the show.
Two questions.
I was just curious about this.
If anything requires board action, it'll require board action.
The board action that we do have to do is look at the
We
final
have to
numbers
prove
and
it.
approve it.
Oh, yeah, we have to prove it.
Correct.
I was talking about the regulations and all that stuff.
What I said, there are two topics going on. One was the regulations, one was the dollars.
Yeah.
The dollars, we still have, not that we're not going to.
No, we haven't approved it.
We'll have a plan. Here's what I can tell you. We're going to have a plan together. Here's how we're going to operate it. Here's the cost to construct it. Here's how we're going to do it. It'll be presented
We'll be
at one of the upcoming
We're
board
gonna
meetings.
bring different people in, develop the plan for you, and then someday we're gonna see it.
Right.
Vote on it.
Okay, by the numbers. Let's do for this month. You can see, and again, they're in your books, but bottom line is we're approximately $29,000 to the positive. We've had some improvements. I'm sorry the red in the back doesn't show as well, but it is streaming, and the slides, as Dave Schwartz put them up, actually come very clear on the website. But biggest thing, we've had a nice improvement here with aquatics. What we have is we've had a slight improvement in golf. The weather's helped us, and the yacht club is continuing to run the negative. Bottom line to the association, still $29,000 positive variance to the budget. And all the information's in your monthly financials. Now, the projected, quarterly we're required to come out with a projected number, okay? We've updated our projections, okay, and it's hard to read in the back. I apologize. It's approximately 80,000 total negative variance. That's also on your next page. You actually have a snapshot of this. Where we see is the golf ops, because we're going to lose the March and April as we do the project. We had to take a hit on those numbers, and we ran out the losses with the yacht club based on the projections. Bottom line for us, we're looking at the end of the year being at an $80,000 in the red or below budget. The two biggest contributors, the golf and the yacht club. Again, we're losing one of our key months in golf.
And Bob, to be clear, so there's no confusion, that's a variance from the budget.
Variance from budget, correct.
The forecast net is cash, which is positive 37,332. Right?
Yes, sir.
Everybody understands that's real money. That's not budget.
Correct. Okay, any questions about that, about the GM report?
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, next thing is the lifetime golf membership program.
That was next?
That's what's next.
No,
We have a
Oh,
public
nice
comment.
public comment.
Never mind.
Turn the lights on, please.
Turn the lights on so I
I'm
can
working
read
on
this
it.
thing. Thank you.
There we go.
Let me turn my glasses upside down. Okay. Next thing you were going to do is the golf, but with public comment.
All right, nobody speak up? Nobody else want to speak? All right, I got to say something, and I want nobody to interfere with me, bro. I'm a very, very nervous man. I got a few things
Gotcha.
to say.
No.
I'm full of Osteen, a flying Dutchman. I want first to come back to the last meeting, and Bob, there's no personal feeling about that, the way I talk, okay? Sure. Well, over an hour and a half over here about the yacht. Told us all kind of things what was right and wrong. And Bob wouldn't give us 30 minutes to respond to his questions, what I thought was not fair. But what got me upset after Bob quit and bespoke that one of our board members called us the Ocean Pine Whiners. What is going on? Can we not speak of peace? I think so that board member is supposed to resign. Or she's supposed to apologize to the people in Ocean Pine. That's getting a little bit too far. If I don't got the right to speak up, and they calling me a whiner, I'm supposed to sling everything what you people tell me? That's not right. That is completely wrong.
Yes, you can, Billy.
Don't answer me, I'm talking.
Well, I was gonna ask a question.
Stop.
Okay.
I got the floor.
Okay.
You disappoint me.
Okay.
You disappoint me. Bob spoke over there about all the workmanship, okay, about the yacht club. We spent $1.5 million remodeling. We got a coffee house. They took the benches away. I understand they changed the bar. We had 3 people coming and looking the yacht club. Unfortunately, everyone had a different idea. It looks now like the damn thing is falling apart. Bob showed us pictures from people walking underneath. There was a wood laying all kind of crap. There was laying electric stuff. Not done by. You know why? It's done by scrap labor. The cheapest man we can get. They don't care what they do so long they get $100,000. I'm a union member. I went to the apprenticeship school, and I was learning one thing. If you want to be the master mechanic, you have to do a master mechanic job, not a half job. I'm sorry that I bought the book, but he don't show us the good things in the yacht club. And I ask you now another question. I know you all want to rebuild the yacht club and the country club and the golf course. A couple months ago, you told us we're going to vote on everything. Everything goes to a referendum. Why was the golf course not put on a referendum? You know why? The board knows that people are not going to vote for it. And you all got that $1.6 million, the way you can spend it. That has to be cut back to $500,000. The same thing happened with the swimming pool. It's a disaster. You all know it. What is the man who had the biggest mound to build that? He left Ocean Pine. He left us with $1 million in the hole. Right? And another thing I want to ask. I was approached this morning by a lady about the swimming pool. Now, I don't know if that is true. She went in, she lived here in Ocean Pine. She went with her 2 kids to the street, or 2 grandchildren. She had to pay $21, is that right? Again, is that right? $21 for a person and 2 kids
Am I allowed to speak?
to swim.
It sounds right.
She had a lady buy her from outside Ocean Pine and pay the same money. What is going on? Are we paying for the people from Worcester County? I have to pay $860, and then I have to pay the same money. These people got a free ride. We paying for Worcester County people. And another thing I want to say, we got people here on the board have pushed their whole life paper. They come on the board, they know how to run the yacht club, they run how to know the food business, they know how to run the golf course. You cannot steal a man straight. If you want to have a good yacht club, you need a first-class manager. You want to have good food, you need a chef, not a hamburger flopper. And I tell you, people, you can put $4 million in that thing. The people are not coming. And I guarantee you that. The yacht club got a bad name, and you're not going to get rid of it. Maybe if you call it the Flying Dutchman, maybe people fly in. I don't know. But it's not the problem. You people gone too far. I'm not against Bob. I think I've got many meetings with Bob. I cannot see that you tell me if you got 10 lots, you're going to sell it for $2 million. You're going to sell it before you start building on the yacht club? If we don't sell it, who pays the $2 million in it? Can you remember 6 years ago, Mr. Olson lied to us, get $3 million for 16 lots. He didn't even could get $100,000. What is going on, people? I cannot more afford to pay what you people think here on the board we're all millionaires. But I'm going to do everything my best this year in the election to get some board members out. I swear by that. And that's all I got to say.
Ernie Artis, 37 Quarterstaff Place.
Hang on one second. I control the floor here, not somebody else. You want to say something right ahead?
I think that I will do the adult thing and speak with Dutch myself, not take up more time.
Ernie Artis, 37 Quarterstaff Place. Just want to comment about the proposed buildings, okay? Over at the golf course, okay? No one's put golf carts below their main building now for over 25 years. The reason for it is the batteries are hazardous materials. The word hazmat has changed all the rules, okay? The fumes coming off of batteries cause cancer and other illnesses. That's why golf carts are kept in a separate barn, and that barn's heavily ventilated. You don't want them in your main thing. If there's ever a fire, and hazmat has got to be called in to clean up because the batteries are imploding and exploding, your main facility will be shut down forever until they allow you to come back inside. So that's the reason. Check it out yourselves, but you won't find a golf club anywhere in the last 25 years that's put batteries underneath. They just don't do it. And the other thing, Bob's comment in the paper about the seating arrangement. He come up with 160 people, saying that he heard a pro tournament has 144 people. That's a professional golf tournament, Bob. That's what was on television this past weekend. You've never had a professional golf tournament in Ocean Pines, and you never will. Moving to the yacht club new building, okay? Restaurants should be on the ground for easy access in, easy access out, especially for the people with handicaps. We got people in wheelchairs, walkers, other problems, okay? they're never going to come to this restaurant because it's up in the air. You got people with vertigo that they got to go into a hotel and they're on the second floor. They won't even go near the balcony. And there's many people with vertigo. They don't like walking up steps that have spaces. Okay, and if you ever had anybody in a wheelchair, people in wheelchairs are trapped. They don't like going in elevators. That's why, you got a company called the Darden Corporation. I don't know if you ever heard of them. They own Red Lobster, Olive Garden, Longhorn Steakhouse, Bahama Breeze, and some others. They own these restaurants. These are not franchises. They own these restaurants. They know how to earn money for their stockholders. If you want some expert opinion on restaurants, call this corporation up. None of their restaurants are built in the air. Okay, they just built a new Olive Garden down in Easton. Go down there and take a look at that building. The building says you want to come inside. That's how beautiful it is. But once again, it's on the ground. It's easy access in, easy access out. And if you have an emergency evacuation because you got to get people out, how are you going to get them off the top floor without somebody getting seriously injured? It's not going to happen. People are going to get hurt. These companies like the Darden Company, they have all the stats, all the numbers that say that their restaurant should only be 140 or 150 people, not 200. Can't get 200 people out safely. You can get 140 out, 125 out. Last but not least, our yacht club food and beverage operation under Bob's direction this year is going to lose more money than any year Tom Olson was here. So why aren't we trying to find someone to lease the yacht club? Lease it out. Go a different avenue. You just can't keep throwing money at the yacht club, throwing money at the golf course and think it's going to get better. It's not. You got to try something different, and I think leasing is the way to go. Have a nice night.
Speaking of vertigo, I hired a tree trimmer. He came out to my house and told me I had vertigo. I said, why don't you call a lawnmower? That's the God's honest truth. Gene Ringstorff, 2 California, and as usual, some of the people that are on this board for a while know that I generally have a handout. So I'm going to give you all a handout that you can follow what I'm going to say, and then later on, if you run out of toilet paper or something, that's something. But at least you can read it. I generally had this prepared for another meeting, but because of a meeting that was supposed to be closed that became open, yada, 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 didn't have a chance to talk about this. But I just want, and Pete, you've heard all this before, so you email. I just want to make a couple of comments, a couple of thoughts from my professional background on capital management. First of all, the collection of depreciation expenses. What we're doing when we're taking the depreciation expense and collecting that through assessment, what we're doing, OPA is really collecting its original investment in the depreciable asset. OPA has to maintain its net worth or its net resources or its net assets, whatever you want to call it. They are the resources that you have entrusted to you to do the mission of OPA. As a nonprofit, we can't measure your success on financial management by looking at profits because you're a nonprofit. One measure you look at to see the success of the management of a nonprofit, have they maintained their net resources, their net worth, their net assets over time? If it's declining, no, that's a no, non-for-profit. If it was maintained or increasing, that's a better story. We start out with cash. Like for this building, $1.75 million in cash. All we did was convert that cash to a building. But the difference is that building depreciates, becomes less and less useful over time. But so to maintain our net worth, in other words, to maintain the resources to do our mission in the future, we got to recapture, recollect that investment. That is the purpose of what we're doing when we're collecting depreciation. It is not a replacement fund. And I'll explain that. The next point. The reason it's not a replacement fund. Today, as we're speaking, we're collecting depreciation expense on this building. There's not one board member here, I hope, who has voted yet to replace this building. We don't have that thought. We shouldn't do it. It's left for the future generations to do. But Ocean Pines had an asset called cash, $1.75 time will deteriorate in use and functionality. So to maintain our net resources so that we can do our job in the future, we got to recapture that original cost. That's the purpose of collecting depreciation. It has nothing to do with replacement. The collection of replacement costs normally does not occur, or the decision to replace an asset normally does not occur until near or at the end of the life of the asset. So that explains why, we are collecting depreciation on here. We haven't made a decision to replace this. It's not a replacement cost funding mechanism. It's the recapture of that resource that we spent here so that our net resources stay the same. Now, if you borrow funds, here's a situation, you're still going to recapture the investment. What happened to our net asset, net resources when we borrowed the funds? They didn't increase at all. We might have gotten $1.75 million from the bank, but we owed $1.75 million to the bank. Net resources zero. But we still got to collect that investment. But this time, we owe that money to the bank, or whoever, or to me if I gave it to you. But we owe it to them, okay? It's their money. So, generally speaking, if you borrow, the money you're going to collect from depreciation, generally speaking, is going to go into paying off the loan and not necessarily go into future reserve or reserves for future replacements, okay? So, in other words, you're still going to collect depreciation even though you don't, you borrowed the funds. So but again, you haven't made any decision to replace that asset on the day one, but you got to start collecting the investment. Now, what am I saying? Funds that are collected for their recapture, they can be invested in other depreciable assets. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm saying they can be used for that. As a matter of fact, in the early history of Ocean Pines, when Boise Cascade turned over to us from 69 through 1975 or whatever it was, what was it, about $3 million of fixed assets, we started collecting depreciation on it right away. And beginning the early years, just like this building, you don't have a lot of replacements, okay? So those funds were getting, that recaptured investment was building up a nice pile of money. It was used to replace stuff that needed to be replaced. But you were still only collecting the original investment. As time went on, the cost to replace those things were going higher and higher. They ran out of, after a while, somebody would start, maybe in the late 90s, early 2000s, people saying, whoa, our reserves are really being depleted because we were replacing more and more. The buildings were getting older, the assets getting older, replacing more, they were costing more, and we were still only collecting the original cost of that asset that back in the early 70s. And so we were depleting our reserves. So now the concept came, what do we got to do? We got to collect replacement costs, just not the original cost. That decision, that process is entirely separate from that decision, and that process of collecting replacement costs is separate from recapturing the original investment. That decision is completely different. It has a whole other set of circumstances. It's made by different people. You're not making the decision now to collect the replacement costs on this building because we don't know if the people in 40 years hence are going to replace this building. What about the skate park? Maybe 25 years from now, people will have anti-gravity board. They won't skateboard, so we don't have to replace the skate park. And my last point is most large assets, and this is an important point, most large assets in this corporation, or this entity rather, well, we are a corporation, nonprofit group, are comprised of a lot of component assets. This building is not a single asset that gets depreciated on its own as one big asset. No, it's comprised of a lot of assets, hundreds of assets, most of which will be replaced several times over the life of the entire asset. That replacement of those component assets in my profession, which almost may be the most interesting man in the world, I was a depreciation expert. But anyway, that replacement is called interim replacement. It is the interim replacements that cause a lot of people problems because they say, oh, look, we collected funds for the replacement of that building all along. Whereas the building has to be replaced, there's no funds there. Because if you weren't replacing the replacement cost, you were only getting the original cost of those interim assets. And when it came time to replace them, you were digging into that original cost to fund, the much bigger replacement cost. So you got to keep this in mind, that individual assets, when they retire, they each have their own separate life, they each have their own separate depreciation expense, and when come time to replace, they'll have their own separate costs. So all in all, my point is, what got this corporation in trouble in the earlier years was they were using the recapture of the original investment strictly as a replacement fund, and it's not really intended to that. It's to keep your net assets at least equal to what you started out with. This board's entrusted with putting out a net asset, net resources to do whatever it's got to do for its mission. And you should end up at the end of the fiscal year and the following fiscal year and the following with the same net assets or a little better if you can do it. So thank you very much for listening to a very, very interesting discussion.
Thanks, Gene.
You're welcome.
Hey, did you get that? Did you follow that? Did you follow that?
I learned
Yes.
If you don't, I'll be glad to bore you to death.
No, thank you. That was
Gene and I talked from time to time, and we had good conversations.
Yes, we do. It would put other people to sleep, but it's almost,
good, solid information. Anybody else?
In the back.
Tom, I see you smiling. When I first came in, I was a couple minutes late, but I heard like 2 or 3 words about the gas at the marina. I said Bill Sheridan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. You said it's competitive. Well, it's competitive to profitable companies. We're not looking to make a profit. What you're doing is looking to subsidize from the voters everything else. Why isn't it at a level that's just covers the cost? I don't know could anybody explain the rationale? Could anybody explain the rationale that we're going to charge voters more? We're going to charge voters for above the gasoline price to be competitive with Croppers and some of the other places?
We're not.
You're not what?
We're not going to raise anything.
But it's already there. It's already built in. I think, excuse the word raise is a bad term. We're going to keep what we have in terms of excess over cost. I'd like to know what the rationale was. Why should voters have to subsidize everything else? Because it seems like everything else needs to be subsidized. Don't pick on the voters. Personally, it's a very serious issue.
Go for it.
I'll take a shot at trying to respond to this, because in reality, we have multiple different segments of Ocean Pines who all come together, and some of them are sold to the public, some pieces of it, hamburgers, drinks, gasoline, rounds of golf, access to the golf, to the tennis courts. They all, at some point, you have to cover your cost and make some level of profit to make up for, unless you want to take all of that overhead and dump it right on top of everybody's dues, which, and I'd hate to tell you what that would do to that $800 and some if we did that. If we don't make profit at certain things that we sell, product by product, and I understand.
Why don't we make profit?
Hey, you asked me to answer, and I'm answering. Okay, the decision has been made that we will sell certain products at a profit, just as we make money on certain issues on other products, and that's what we do. Otherwise, we simply would take everything that every cost we've got, divided by 8,442 to 43 memberships, and that would be the dues. So at some point, and again, we can talk this offline. I've tried to answer your question the best I can. Okay?
We're going to pay. Voters are going to pay.
Yes, you are. Just as people who buy a hamburger pays. Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
I agree with this gentleman here. I don't know how.
Wait, no.
I'm not talking about the gas.
Go right ahead.
All right.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I got my duct tape. In case we need it, we got my duct tape.
I think Tom wants to use it on me.
Go right ahead.
I agree with this gentleman.
I'm
here
not giving it to you.
That the battery asset is a real liability. I don't understand why, maybe we're all wrong, don't understand why that wasn't a knowledgeable little piece of paper, statistics, whatever, before we jump the gun and have plans. That would seem like a day one thing.
Can I answer the question?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Mr. Artis is incorrect. We have one golf course within 5-10 minutes from here where the carts are under the structure. So his information is inaccurate. They do build courses. There's several in Maryland. There's one, Lighthouse Sound, where the carts are under the structure. So when you make a comment like that, you need to be able to back it up. Our plans are from current designs, and they are under the structure. So please, I'm not trying to be rude about it, but factually they are.
Based on what he said.
And that's why I wanted to correct his statement, sir, is because they are built under, there are
When
parts
was
that
the
are not
Lighthouse Sound built?
Hyatt Cambridge is another one. And these
When were they
are,
built?
A lot earlier than 25 years ago.
Hyatt's new.
yeah,
I'm sorry?
they're
A lot
built,
less.
25 years ago?
A
No,
lot
sir.
less than 25 years ago.
they're more recent structures.
Relatively new facility.
Okay.
I agree with Dutch too. We're always building things for everybody else. You've been saying that at every meeting. We're gonna get these people to come in if we do spend this money on this. And we're not talking about Ocean Pines. We talk about 90% of the people, sounds like, coming from other ways to pay for our facilities. The yacht club. I like the yacht club, but it's never gonna be a DJs or anything like that. You go down the strip in Ocean City, and even part of 50. They're all over the place. Convenient for people to hop. It's not convenient. Not at all for the mass of the people. We've already understood that Ocean Pines doesn't support it, so they're looking for everybody else to support it. That is another issue. And Tom, the last meeting before, you said you had a study, I guess it was, that we have a golf course in this facility, town, whatever, it's going to make our prices go up, or our values better. I'm sorry? You mean we don't lose money? We need the prices stay sustained? I don't know, I'm asking Tom.
Are you asking me or Tom? Tom, right?
Sorry.
No, we're having Keller comments, we're not having a debate.
Okay. Yeah, but enough of the back and forth at this point. Sorry, folks. All right.
I was
Yeah,
asking Bob.
we can take some of this offline, but I mean, we're,
Well, I think it's important. And I'll tell you why. I have a study here. Took it out of the computer. Bam, it's the first one I went to. It says if your lot is on the golf course, yeah, 7-8% better price. But if it's not on the golf course, no effect at all. So I gotta, I can, you can fool with numbers, you can fool with anything. Depends on who's doing your study, they're doing it for you or for your paper or what. But I'm just saying that there's a lot of documents out there too that say, no, it's not an impact unless you're sitting on the golf course and your house, you can see what's going on.
thank you. Anybody else?
Carol Mills, I live on Falconbridge Road. I'll argue with that gentleman about the golf course, because believe me,
I don't think he's listening, hang on, could you, I think she's trying to say something, please.
Well, I'm
I'm
sorry,
going to
man.
argue with you about the golf course, because believe me, when you get ready to sell your house, one of the first things that they're going to tell is that there's a golf course, a Robert Trent Jones golf course in Ocean Pines.
I can tell you, that if he's a voter, he's not going to give a diddly. A golf player, yes.
Anybody else?
I want to ask one question. Bob, how many people signed it up from Ocean Pines to use the enclosed swimming pool in the wintertime? How many percentage from the people? And you cannot give an answer on it. I'd like to know it, if possible.
Media.
Joe Reynolds.
Joe's
Didn't see your hand.
Yeah,
Not
you
sure
can't
what
say
he
it.
is.
Are you media, sir, or are you public comment?
Public comment. I'm an association member right now. Joe Reynolds, 84 Watertown Road. Thank you. As someone who works in technology and understands how complicated some of the problems would be. I'd like to say something about Dave Swarton. I know it's his job, but I'd like to compliment him on the difficult work, and I know it's difficult, in getting internet streaming, and now I hear live on cable. Congratulations on a good job.
Thank you. I just took a moment to agree with you.
About web search, and Dave may know this, and you might put this on the website, on the homepage, to tell people. Google, for example, searches every page in the Ocean Pines website. Maybe some things it doesn't find, but it pretty much finds everything. You can search Google and be specific about finding things only that are on the OPA website. And it's done like this. Put in a search word or two in the Google search, space, and then type site:"oceanpines.org, and it will return all the results only from Ocean Pines of those search words. So how you can incorporate that into a design or something, but I mean, essentially that's free. What was the did you give actual net projections for the end of the year in your presentation? What was the actual net on the yacht bill? You have that up. Net profit or loss?
Forecast net, is that what you're looking for, Jeff?
Forecasted net, yeah.
205.
205.
Is that the number you're looking for?
Yeah. Was golf 197? Something?
Forecast net,
Yes.
284.
284?
284.
Lost, right?
Not Providence.
Not Providence.
Hasn't been that way for 40 years, right? They all look good on our copies, there's no red.
I don't know, the board members don't much give how they think about things, or say much how they think about things. Those are some amazing losses. I mean, we're talking historic. If I could provide a little bit of advice to Ms. Moore, and it's meant in the proper vein, when Dutch finished his public comments, and I couldn't really hear too much of what he was saying back in the back of the room. But regardless of what he said or didn't say, at the end of his comments, when Tom asked you if you wanted to say anything, you said, "I will do the adult thing." I hope you realize what the implication of your statement is when you say, "I'll do the adult thing." And maybe you didn't mean it that way, but
You're
it's
right.
kind of like Dutch is doing the childish thing. And
You're
and I
absolutely right.
understand
You
in the atmosphere and
did
everything.
not know how I meant it. You're
Right.
absolutely right.
But
And that's not how I imprinted it.
that's not what you
And
said.
that's not what I said either.
What did you say?
I said I would not take the time during the board meeting. I would talk with Dutch individually.
No, you said, "I will do
And
the
I said
adult
that
thing."
I would be an
Okay.
adult
Right, okay.
And talk to him later.
and talk to him later to not
Okay.
take time during the board meeting. Like we're doing now.
On the issue of the gasoline and in general, my feeling is that the business amenities of Ocean Pines should be managed to produce the maximum profit in order to benefit all 8,440 or so lot owners. Anything else does not benefit all association members. There should be no theories or management that says we're going to keep this artificially low so that we keep these people happy, be they boaters or whoever they are. we heard comments last week about, or the last meeting about the issue of subsidizing or putting profits on the backs of the voters. And I've made this same comment then. Beach club parking, if it was not for beach club parking, this place would be in the hole every year. We'd all be paying $300,000 more than $300,000 more in our assessments, because we gouge the people who buy beach club parking passes to an extent that's not even, is way beyond anything that the voters are subsidizing. So if there's anybody being gouged or who's putting the bill for all the losses, it's the beach club parking people. And that's it. Thank you.
Anybody else? You get a 1 minute follow-up.
Got one question, okay? We plugged a lot of money into the golf course, let's say. Design and of the drainage, now we're paying $900,000 to do the greens, and there's more money to cut down trees for the greens to live. The question is what is your plan if rebuilding the country club doesn't pass after spending all this money on the golf course?
One has nothing to do, the other, as far as I'm concerned.
Rather than you shouldn't be on the board, because it does. You're spending money here, what if you don't have a country club?
We do
The
have.
Marshall shuts it down.
Okay. Again, it's public comments, there's no barriers, except for swearing. None of that. Okay, media questions. Okay. Now, facilities update, Mr. Thompson.
Really?
Please, yes.
Okay.
Gonna get something?
We're not even talking about the unpaid They're almost $5.5 million
All right, facilities update. And just real quick, there was a question about yacht club. Again, able staff. Hyatt was built in 2002, Lighthouse Sound in 1999, just so you know the ages of the facilities. Thank you. All right, quick facilities updates. A lot of energy, a lot of folks have already spoke a little bit about the facilities. As I promised, I'd give an update this month on where we are with it. As you know, we talked in December. I came back. We did a lot of feedback sessions. I've received email, phone calls, people come in to visit with me, and the town hall meetings went extremely well. We sent information out on the OPA newsletter, had several pages dedicated to it to include the cover. A lot of positive feedback I received from the community, not just the folks that live here, but the folks that live out of the area. It gave them good insight on what we were doing. So I actually had a lot of calls from the non-resident owners. They called to say thanks for the update, and they actually emailed with additional questions, which was very, very good. Emails, phone calls, a lot of good back and forth dialogue, and our 3 town hall meetings. We had ranging between 45 people in one, about 70 in another, and 120 to start in the third. So we had a lot of different groups, depending on which of the facilities it was. So we did get that feedback, the input, and we were able to dialogue about what we were trying to do moving forward. Top 2 impressions that came out of the feedback session. One was year-round dining at the yacht club. That was interesting because we talked about making the country club and the yacht club as they work together. But most have come back and said it needed to be the yacht club, and they want that as the year-round facility. Enclosed the ground floor was the second primary thing that I heard. And it didn't necessarily come back as an enclosed year-round, more enclosure, 3-season would be fine. But folks worry about the heat and worry about the flies. They were the primary concerns. And then the other part of that, if there was a wedding or another event going on, that the regular patrons would still have a place to come and dine. So they were the two probably highest and most frequently talked about feedback or questions we had during the meeting, follow-up from the meeting. Okay, I think with that being said, those board members and those members of the association as a whole who could not attend, but all 3 meetings are on the website in their entirety. You can go through and scan through and speed up or slow down if you're interested in certain areas. I would encourage you to do so. Very, very interesting feedback. My takeaway from it, probably different than what we've heard from a few of the members tonight. The overall feedback was positive in a lot of ways. I was actually very, very pleased with that. And, you know, a lot of times you'll get a group of people and they'll be leaning one way or the other. You know, it was nice to have both sides represented where we could have good dialogue about it. If you're not sure, go and look. You'll see from the feedback sessions. Thing that I would like to recommend with our project as we move forward is decouple the 2 projects. It's something that we're looking at. We had a lot of feedback, trying to push both Yacht Club and Country Club. A renovation rebuild right now, I think, creates a challenge. It's a recommendation we're making. Of course, the board can say no, continue down the path and do them both. Look, I'll do both. I'll do one. I'll do neither. It's up to you all. Move forward. What we're going to ask is that we move forward with the design build at this point. That would be our next step. Design build would give us the opportunity to work with some of the larger commercial construction companies, working with them to help us design the structure, giving them the recommendation is take the feedback, take the design concepts that we have now, present that to them in a meeting, also present to them the enclosing possibly 3-season on the first floor, potentially year-round dining, which may include slightly expanding the second floor, and they allow them go back to their companies, their architects, come up with some designs, much like we did with this building, a design build concept. Once we get those back, Cisco actually has a kitchen consultant, you know, as part of their company, that once we get to that point, to make sure, I mean, the square footage of the kitchen, we think we have a pretty good size-wise. We looked at multiple kitchens and designs. The recommendation is go back for the final design and placement for all the different, you know, the cooktops and the cold stations, hot stations, those things. So we'd like to deploy those efforts, but that would be our recommendation. Simultaneously, and again, this is assuming we decouple the project, we'd like to move down the path where it's our intention to go ahead and price a complete rehab of either or both facilities. When I say complete rehab, I'm not convinced that's the way to go, but I think it's reasonable. I think our community deserves us to at least explore that option. I think that what we'd recommend is when we explore that option, we do it to the fullest of with the evaluation, whether it was the Yacht Club or Country Club, whether it's AWB or Becker Morgan. We explored when we do a rehab on the facilities, we meet the ADA requirements. We meet all the HVAC, plumbing, electrical, all those elements should go into it, because what we cannot do moving forward is Band-Aid one or both of the facilities. Everything we've said is 30, 40 years and longer. To do that, we need to get on to fixing them, whether it's a full rehab or rebuild. I think it's appropriate for us to price those out to allow the community to have a choice of which way they'd like to do via referendum. Updated timeline? Yes, sir.
When you talk about evaluation, I just want to be very clear, we're talking about 2 intrusive engineering studies that were done as being guidelines for those.
Yes, sir.
Next question, meeting all of the conditions that they identified still leaves out in the wind the question that was asked at one of our briefing meetings at the very beginning of this board meeting, which is, in Ted Maroney's own words, what is the tipping point in the county that kicks in current building codes? Do you have an answer to that? And it is
one building inspector has told us 20%. However, when they get in, it triggers other points as you start to do rehab. It very likely is going to grow from there. That would be the minimum. 2 different architectural firms said it's at 50% tipping point. So there's going to be a blend somewhere in there.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm hearing a couple of positive things.
Would you say that again a little louder? I'm just kidding.
No, I think it's moving some of these things moving towards the right direction. I think decoupling is something that has to be done. I mean, in my opinion. Yeah.
It's on.
Oh, okay. I think the year-round dining is something that we believe in several years ago where we left off, and I think, that getting back to that is a good idea. I think enclosing the ground floor is going to be a good idea. I'm not saying it can't be Brighton area or whatever. Okay. I really think decoupling the yacht club and the country club projects is an important thing to do. I think you're implying here that the yacht club will be the primary dining facility for Ocean Pines, and I believe maybe you're not implying it, but at least I'm taking that positive vibe out of what you're saying. What you're saying.
Answered the question, it wasn't just asked.
Yeah, you can answer it. I mean,
if you ask me the question,
I just asked.
You believe it should be. Okay.
I do.
Okay. Now here, make my day happy, or as happy as it's going to get anyway. When you go to this design architect phase, okay, can I hope? I'm sorry, I'm giving you the answer, but can I hope that they are going to look at your concepts as a starting point and the feedback you've gotten, and also recommend as restaurant professionals potentially other concepts. In other words, you have a set of drawings, but maybe that's not the set of drawings. That would be part of the architectural design phase. Am I right in assuming that? Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to ask Pete.
No, I just want to design build. It's design build.
To more specifically answer the question, no, we would not ask them to go to ground zero and start over designing a facility. We're going to give them the basic concept. Here's what we're interested in. Here's the structure. And start from here. Make any recommendations or changes that you may think would better suit the organization. But start with this. We're not asking them to start from zero and do something.
Okay. See, what I would kind of hope for at this point in time, and we've had this going on a long time, and what I have not heard or seen or any kind of report from is what a restaurant professional thinks this concept should be or how it should be. I mean, so if you're saying you're going from design build for the drawings and the concept that you've got now, I would consider that a mistake. I don't want to get, this is not for tonight. Yeah. I think the board has never even discussed this. Not even discussed it. I mean, so there's still some stuff to go. But I do like, it's really.
Okay. Estimate timeline, I've been asked where we are. If you recall, back in December, the board requested that I seek out feedback from the community to continue with the design. Take your design, go to the community, get feedback, which is what we've done. And that's why we're recommending we decouple and we get moving with the project, whichever it may be. Here's an estimated timeline. We've revised it from the one I provided in previous slides because I have to keep it current. Talked about engineering studies. They were accomplished. The first 2 or 3, we've been through these, okay, and they're in your slides. Board asked me to go back through January, following the December meeting, get feedback, do presentations, which was what we intended to do, and we've done that. And again, a lot of good feedback from a lot of different sources, pro and con to the concepts. We're recommending I'm going to say I'm recommending that the board allow us to continue moving forward with a project, whichever it may be. If we're able to do that, we can begin the next step, which is the development stage. What we would do is develop a scope of work, take that scope of work, lay that out, work down one parallel path, one with the rehab work, to find out what it would take to meet the AWB for the yacht club or Becker Morgan for the country club. Use that to get bids on the rehab work. At the same time, take the concept along with the scope and present that to potential builders, commercial builders that would build the facility, and present that to them so they could go start their design process. And doing so, we would be able to, we believe we can from today moving forward, have it out to bid for more accurate costs to our contractors that may be interested in doing the work. The bids would be due back by the end of April. May, we would review and level the bids. And what that means is when the bids come back, the leveling is making sure we're comparing apples to apples. You know, you just put it on a spreadsheet and you look at HVAC, you look at all the different elements so you're not, so you do your very best, as we've done with all the other contracts. We try to level it against the other competitors or the other bidders to make sure we understand exactly what we're getting with it, which would put us at a point a couple weeks after that where we could make a recommendation. We'd like to select, bidder or contractor A, B, or C, and what the reasons behind it, which would then allow us to prepare a referendum for early summer. So that's a timetable, a time frame. I wanted to put that out there so everyone had the opportunity, because I get asked that question, what's our next step? Well, there are the next steps, and there's the timetable. Questions about it? Yes, sir.
One is
Bless you.
scope of work. When you say we, who are the we that are going to...
Facility planning group.
Facility planning group. And that is
Ted Maroney, Bill Rayco, could be Bill C. We've used him as part of it. Myself, we'll talk. They're from a scope of work. They're the ones. I mean, Ted's got the engineering background.
And they've worked with you over the last, whatever.
Over the last year, they were also part of the 10-year task force.
We don't have much insight into what happened over the last year. I do before that.
Did that answer your question?
that answered my question. I have one more.
Yes, sir.
After you review and level the bids, in effect, what you're leveling is not only the bid, but the design. I guess it was pricing is set. So we would be deciding on the building and price and making a competitive look at both the vendors who respond to your RFP. And the referendum would be the pick of the board's recommendation to the community as to which one of those you would move forward.
We'll make a recommendation, but you'll have the opportunity to see any and all of them to go, hey, how come
I'd much rather have you make the recommendation.
I have no problem doing it. I can
I'm
handle
kidding,
it.
Bob.
I'm okay with that.
No, I just want to make sure that I understand the process, because in essence, by looking at your dates, today's the 21st of whatever month we're in.
February.
So we got a whole month left for the board to get to an authorization to proceed.
Not necessarily true. We need to get moving if we have any shot. Think about it from this time. First, the board has to make a decision. Do we separate the projects? I don't think the board's made that decision yet. Assuming that would be our first step. Are you all willing to say, hey, let's point you on a path? I do not believe, and the board may agree or disagree and direct me otherwise, but I think doing one project this year, for me, makes sense. However, I can tackle them both if you also direct me to do it. I'm not sure the community will support it. Most of the feedback I'm hearing is, hey, let's do one and see how that works. And I prefer that. So it's really that's our first step. assuming we can make that happen, we need to get, if we have any shot of getting onto the project, to get it moving at a time. Example, if it's the yacht club, okay, I'm not going to be around the bush. I think the yacht club's the first one we start with. If it's the yacht club, if we have any shot of salvaging seasons, I looked at the time frame, we need to get moving with the project so we can figure out, A, where the building would be located, if we can keep the current building in operation as long as possible and build another one far enough back if there's room on that site to do so. We haven't done that type of work yet because we haven't been pointing in that direction. So I was just going to say, I've been asked to get moving on the project. I'm trying to follow the board's guidance on it. We're at a standstill right now without some direction.
I think we need to give him direction. I have in my hand the motion, not a new motion, guys. I have in my hand the motion that was introduced by Bill Wentworth on the December 20th, and we altered that motion slightly at the meeting. And essentially what we said was, instead of passing the motion, Bill, as you had it, we introduced another concept to it, and that said, before we authorize the expenditure of $100,000, which is $50,000 apiece for two different projects, we said we want you to make modifications to the extent that they're deemed appropriate. First of all, go out and get input from the community. We said get input from the board. We said get input from whatever source you can. But we insisted on, through the alteration of that motion made by Bill Wentworth on December 20th, that Bob go out and do that. He has done that. We also injected in there, and Tom, I believe it was your language explicitly, that said, and come back to the board. He's coming back to the board, in my opinion, having gone through the process that we directed him. I remember one of the articles in the newspaper, and I do read them, said that basically that we put a cautionary sign up and kind of held, and we did. We said, look, let's not spend $100,000 on plans and then find out, based on input both from ourselves and from others, that we need to make modifications and spend more money. So we said, no, let's do it in a sequence that says, get the input, both from the members of the public, get the input from your board members. I've submitted, many of us have submitted our comments, and so you are coming back to us, it seems to me, as we asked you to do. And you are saying to us, listen, I've gotten a lot of input, I've done a lot of thinking, I've listened to you all, and I think we ought to proceed with one project at this time, and that be the yacht club, correct?
Yes.
You've also said that based on the input that I've received, there are two significant modifications I'd like to make to the conceptual design that I exposed, right? And you've shared those with us. I, for one, applaud those. So I think it's time for us to get off, I just think it's time for us to move forward and however we want to do it, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can't wait another month. I think let's get going. The design-build process, and Dave, I'm sorry, but I was trying to correct design-architect process because I don't think we need an architect. I don't think we need to spend $100,000. I don't think Bob Thompson thinks we need to spend $100,000, right? But in any event, we can proceed right now on a single-minded focus on the yacht club and hold off on the other facility that was part of the mix in the country. That's what he's recommending to us. That makes sense to me.
Okay.
So I think he's coming back to us. Let's give him the green light to proceed.
I go to the yacht club even this time of the year 2-3 times a week. I don't just go there to eat. I go there to enjoy the company. The yacht club is becoming more and more the community meeting place, not just a restaurant. You go there on Friday night, the place is packed. A third of them are eating. The rest of them are the community, having a good time together. It's the same thing on Saturdays, and it's starting to get that way on Sundays, and it's dead of winter, and there's not that much activity. So the yacht club, as far as I'm concerned, with the people talking to me over there, are saying, when are you going to get this done? Those that use it want it done. The people that are against the yacht club, for the most part, very seldom go there.
Bob, could you put your timeline up again?
Yes, sir.
Please.
Pretty broad generalization, right?
Well, it's true.
And it's not found, you know.
I think
Okay, we're not gonna.
I see the faces.
We're not gonna get into that at this point. We have a Pete, you have summarized where we are very well. We asked
Bob, for you to come back. New game plan, what you want to do. You are saying to us, I'm hearing you say, put the yacht club, decouple, move forward on the yacht club, move towards a referendum on the yacht club, and what this board of directors, as I understand it, simply needs to say, go ahead and decouple and follow the timeline that's on the screen right here.
Yes, sir.
I agree.
Does anybody, okay?
Dan?
All right. Well, Bill, you haven't had a chance to talk yet, then I'll come back to Dan. Go ahead.
Just gonna make a motion.
Okay, hang on. Dan, go ahead.
First of all, you're missing one thing in your summary. Bob has also pointed out that he wants to do currently a pricing for rebuilding based upon engineering studies of both structures. So decouple is relative.
Well.
Watch yourself. Decouple is a little bit relative.
If you point me on a path,
I understand
I'll
what
do
you.
one.
I got it. I got it.
Okay.
So if we say do the yacht club, that means you're not going to do pricing on the country club rebuild?
Correct. And my reasoning for it,
making sure.
no, it's a good question. My reasoning for it, decouple, let me move down the path of one project, primarily because pricing will change in a year or two. And if we do one, let's get all the pricing, current pricing. The reports don't change. If we come back next year or 6 months from now, the board redirects and says, hey, let's get on with project B, whichever one A or B ends up being. We can do it at that time. My recommendation right now is to let's get started with one of them fully and let's set the other one aside. We're not rejecting it. Just allow me to focus on one, which means complete rehab to meet whatever the report is, the evaluation, and a complete rebuild and price them each out.
Okay, let me go to the second question, Mr. President.
Sure.
23 February, begin develop scope of work.
Yes.
When do you have to start developing the scope of work? I'm assuming that 23 February doesn't mean begin, it really means done.
No, sir.
It means 21 March is done and out bid. When do you need to go to start on the 23rd of February?
We've actually started working the scope of work, the scope anyway. I mean, it's just part of the process we've been working on. So it's, I say 23, we're concurrently working on both. I'd like to say let's do one, let me put all my energy into one, and we'll completely, build that out so we can sit and talk with contractors through the design build process. We need that.
Okay, what I'm getting to is design build is a rather interesting thing, and we both know that.
Yes.
The thing that is really interesting from my perspective is your comment about starting with the concepts that you already have. I don't disagree with that, but I want a design build company not only looking at your concepts, I want them looking at 5 hours worth of videotape on a website. I want them seeing the input that you've gotten as well from the community. And that may change your concept and your concept approach. I'd also very much like to see the design build people with a Cisco inclusion in their design build scope of work brief for their bid. In other words, I would strongly recommend that we get Cisco in here now to help develop that scope of work statement that you're going to use for these people to design to bid to. But the bottom line is, and the bottom line I'm trying to make here is that I think that there is a little bit of room left for board discussion. It's 8:30 at night. I'm not really inclined to push a motion through to say, hey, Bob, start running on one project today. I would rather have a focused meeting of the board on that issue, personally. Now, I know that means another meeting, but folks, we also have a budget to talk about tonight, and it's 8:30 on my watch.
Yeah, I kind of mostly agree with Dan. I don't like voting on something that I've just seen. And I know it's built up and everything like that. I could vote tonight to say one project. That's my personal opinion. As a matter of fact, I think I said it way back in. Decouple, I think is the word I used. Yeah. So I could easily say, and if the rest of the board agrees, go in that direction. I do have, without more discussions and problems with the rest of the schedule. I mean, I was there when when I watched the process of building the statement of work at the yacht club when we went out to with it. And it's an order of magnitude more complicated than this building is. I mean, much more complicated. And it was a difficult process. So now we're going to do it in a month. And we're going to do it based, we were doing it based on a building that was existing. He said, okay, here it is. You know, now you got to do all this stuff to it. This is a whole different building. It's, frankly, Bob, I know it's ambitious. You know, I know you're trying to push it as hard as you can. But I'm very skeptical as to whether or not we can do this in this time frame. At the very least, though, I'm not saying don't try, but I would hope that we would be able to see what happens as it's going on. So we'd be able to see the scope of work, for example, before it goes out to bid. Is that something right? No?
Well, it's going to depend. I mean, if the board wants to take the project and develop it and run with it, that's different. I intend to give the board updates, as I said I would, and following with the motions that you're giving me and moving forward. I'm, by design, leaving you all as the decision makers. We get to a point, I bring it to you, you say you like the direction or redirect, and then we go to the next step.
You have the scope of work, you bring it to us, we get to read it, you ask us, and
Let's not get into the weeds here, okay? Tonight, we have one very basic decision to make, in my opinion. Bill, I think you've got a motion coming to this extent. We've got to decide to decouple or not decouple, and that would basically say move forward. We can have a session amongst our board members to talk about the results of the public meeting if we want to do that, and the rest of this. Bob needs an answer. You know, in all defense of Bob and the team, they got an awful lot of heat for about a year for nothing moving, and now we're talking about slowing them down. And I'm not for that at all, personally. Bob, Bill.
First of all, I agree a lot. I won't do that. I agree a lot with what Dave's saying. The most important thing is a month might not be an adequate amount of time for him to get, for Bob to get from February 23rd to March 21st. But what that points out, we got to get moving sooner than later. That said, I move that we direct the general manager to decouple with prioritizing the yacht club first and begin the process.
I'll second that.
I don't know what that means.
What part of it don't you understand?
And get started with the project.
Get started with the timeline. And timeline is obviously timeline is flexible.
So develop a scope of work, project out to the bid for a more accurate cost, set out the contractor bid, and do all of those things.
To begin.
Okay.
To begin.
No, wait a second. What part of begin do you mean, Bill? I'm sorry.
What do I begin?
But I don't know. Listen, you know, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You said, to begin, you said you don't think that a month, Dan said, is adequate enough time to do what has to be done. It may or may not be. But the bottom line is, the sooner you start, if it takes more time, the sooner you're going to get to the end point where you want to be. Time is of the essence. It's time to begin what it is that we're doing. And my motion is to do one project, that being the yacht club, and about to begin this process on the yacht club.
Okay. Now, how about would the begin, develop a scope of work? I would have no problem at all with that. I would love to see the scope of work come out of that. I would also love to see any bid that goes out before it goes out.
We're in discussion.
Yeah. Bob, assuming this motion of Bill's is what we act upon, what would your next steps be?
Developing the scope of work.
And then what?
Seek out potential bidders that are interested in doing the project.
That, in my mind, doesn't require the board to be involved in that.
No, sir.
You agree?
I do agree.
He does, I do not.
We're going to have a difference of opinion here, Dan. I understand that.
No, all I'm saying is the next critical point in this path that we're all talking about, and the path is right. Bob all laid out, all the steps laid out and everything else. What Dave is talking about and what I'm thinking about is where and when does the board inject itself again in this path, and where should they be looking? And frankly, I really do think that we should get a look at that scope of work before it goes out to bid, so that we're all happy with what we're bidding on and what's going on with it. Because we're going to have to, on the 15th of June, defend whatever result comes back to the community. And it's going to be the 7 people plus Bob at this table who are going to take the brunt of that. So I would ask Bill to think about his motion a little bit, and is there a way to amend it so that in fact our next step is to look at a scope of work on or about whenever.
Here's where I would differ or probably shed some light on that. By going design build, what we're allowing is the contractors to apply their knowledge, and the scope of work is going to have a range. The contractors are going to come back and say, we believe we can put X in, tile versus carpet. We can do this. Scope of work kind of gives the parameters. They're going to come back and bid it and then make their recommendations of why they did that project in that way. That's the unique part about design build. We need to be careful. I'm not asking to get blueprints at this point to tie a contractor's hands and say, this is what you have to bid. We're looking for them to come back and give us suggestions, options based on their experience. So the scope just kind of gives the parameters.
No argument about that at all. Unless the scope freezes something like square footage or sets anything but a minimum for population served, for example, in a restaurant facility. I would like to see design build companies be able to come back to us and say, we went out and did some serious homework, and this is what really is going to work in your situation, in our opinion, and here's why. And a good example of that is going on in Pokemon City right now. They're building a restaurant down there. It's designed to seat 140 people. It's a lot smaller than 10,000 square feet. And it's a lot less costly than $3 million. And I'd like to know, when somebody comes back with a design build package, I would love to hear somebody say, we thought about that and we looked at what your community really needs, and we really are providing you with a hard, strong reason to hire us because we've got something that's going to work. I don't know how to write a scope that does that.
Part of the challenge which you're referencing is really you're going back to ground zero and saying, look, Mr. Builder, come in and tell us what you think we ought to have. We've been working on this for a year, getting feedback, input. Our design concept took the information from the 10-year task force, from the feedback from board members, from the feedback from the community to get us to this point. What you're recommending is taking steps back to get input from a builder or contractor to say, here's what we think because we feel based on these conditions. We've been doing our homework to get us to this point. The next step is to move forward with what we know and what our recommendations are. That's the only way you're going to get solid bids from the work we've done. If we want to go back and start over, which is what you're...
I'm really not suggesting that.
I don't say it.
Okay. Well,
I believe that. Really?
Okay.
Go ahead. Peter. I'm sorry, your hand's been up.
No, I'm waiting for the president.
Go ahead, Peter.
Dave, I said at the last meeting, we just celebrated the 3rd anniversary of the creation of the 10-year plan task force. I was pleased to have served on that task force. We spent, Dave, probably a good solid 4 months on the scope, meeting rather regularly. We also, I remind you all, had selected Lehman Construction Company to come in and be our contractor. They proposed to us a bid, and in the design build process, we invited them and others to have ideas and really consider a rebuild as well. What they did was they came back in response to our RFP for a major renovation at something like $2.3 million. They also submitted to us, and I remember in this very building, not this room, but over on the other side, having a presentation to the public where Ted Maroney, on behalf of the 10-year plan task force, gave a presentation and then introduced the representatives from Lehman Construction who unveiled their rendering at the time, initial first crack at it, building. An awful lot of work had gone into that. A year and a half, quite frankly. When you talk about, and I learned, I'm not a builder, those guys were all builders and contractors and so forth and so on. And if they were here tonight, Ted Maroney or Bill Rako, they would describe to you the benefits of the design-build process and the flexibility inherent in that process, which contrasts with hiring an architect, as we were originally thinking, pay him a sum of money to design plans, to put that into a bid package to send to a variety of contractors. We're talking about something different. We're talking about design-build, which does two things. Number one, it's cost, but I think they would tell you, they've told me, that the principal benefit is not saving money so much as it is the free flow of ideas to come back to you with a bunch of competing proposals based on some concepts that you've given them, right? And they'll see it differently. They'll have different suggestions, and you'll be able to see them, one compared to the other. So I think this motion that we had last time, I'll say it again, we required the general manager, we didn't request or encourage him, damn it, we required him to go out and seek input. He has done that. He has come back and he's now modified, based on the input that he's received, in some key respects, the one facility that he's asked to decouple it for, and I think all of us will support that. We are now, in my mind, ready to move forward, as Bill Wentworth has suggested here in his motion. And to me, I don't think we need to get involved, Dan, in the design of all the steps and so forth. So I went through that very painful 4-month period. I was member of the 10-year plan task force. It's time, I think, and we'll still have plenty of time as a board to react to the various and competing proposals and ideas. No question about that. But we can't all be, philosophically, we're going to be different. I know that some people at this table, we argue about it. We each have our different opinions, and I respect that. But I don't see us as board members sitting down and getting involved in that level of detail. That's why he's got his facilities task force, but facilities planning group. We cannot, I know some people would love to get down in the dirt, the nitty gritty, and be involved in this and that. I don't think we as board members need to do that. I think we can give him the authorization. We've seen, how long has the concept plan been out? 2 months? 2 months, Bob? Is that when you presented it?
And how much has the board ever even discussed that? I mean, we've listened. We've listened to what was said. And Pete, you're rewriting history. Because
I'm ready to move on, Dave.
Well, I know you are, because you stopped speaking.
Okay.
I want to remind the board that Bob presented this timeline to us in November and put it together at the December meeting, and in the November meeting, and we all agreed on it, that this was a reasonable timeline to go to. And I don't understand right now why somebody has any idea of maybe putting on the brakes to extend it out a little bit. Maybe you'll have to explain that to me a little bit better.
Well,
Go ahead, Dave.
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, let's make sure that we're real clear about who's doing what here. I'm not trying to put the brakes on. I firmly agree with the general manager's conclusion to divide the properties, the projects. He and I have talked about that before, privately as well as publicly. I think that's the wise thing to do. I think it's the wise thing to get moving on the yacht club project. I think it's a very wise thing to price both options, build new versus rebuild to standards, so that we have a realistic comparison to look at. The only thing that I'm concerned about, and Bob, I really wasn't trying to send you back to point A. I didn't describe that well enough, obviously, but I want to make sure that in developing the scope, that I don't know whether it's in a cover letter presenting your RFP. I don't know how you do this, but I really would like to make sure that the people that we're talking to about design build know that they have room to be creative and understand that they can inject new ideas and new thinking if they can support it and they feel that it meets our objectives better than than what we're talking about, because although we have experts who are on this committee who've been working since God was a little baby to develop a lot of this stuff, they're not currently building. The people you're going to be talking to are, and they are working in the markets where they're building, which is what I'm counting on to come back to us and say, okay, guys, you're great, man. You've done a heck of a job in working this out to this point. Here are the things you don't know, and here's why you don't know them, and here's how we fix them, and here's what we do about them, because this is what you need to really make it work.
I think
That's what I
there's,
want to hear.
and I think there's general agreement.
Yeah, there is, Tom, but what I'm trying to say is, I just would like to see that scope, that's all, before it goes out for bid. It's that simple. I don't want to write it. I don't want to vote on it particularly.
Okay.
I just like to see it as a matter of information.
All right, Dave, I'll go to you, and then I've got a comment to make, and then we'll see what next step is. Dave.
Okay, I think I'm just going to re-echo what Dan said. I mean, I can agree definitely on focusing on the yacht single project. I can also agree that you should start writing the scope of work. That's the first and most important thing. Okay, and if that's what the motion were, and no more than that, then I can vote for it right now tonight.
So now we'll just to
Hang
clarify.
on, I need to clarify at this point myself right now. Which, your motion, Bill, make sure we're clear.
My motion is to direct Bob, our general manager, to do one project identified as the yacht club, proceed with his scope of work, and of course, as he goes along, to share any changes, what's happening with the people.
Say that again, as it goes along, what?
As he gets into the scope of work, the adjustments that the build design people make, for him to just share with recommendations from Thurman.
Okay, I think that's going to be difficult, but I'll let him speak to that. The design-build process is such that you give various contractors what it is you're seeking. They will then submit their ideas and bid. It's not something that they're...
I understand that.
It's like getting a competitive bid received at one
I
time.
understand that.
So when they're
Contractor-
received, he can share
Yes,
with us,
yes.
not during the process.
Correct, that's
Okay,
what I'm saying.
that's what I wanted to
The
clarify.
chosen contractor would
He
be-
can share the designs with us after the designs come in and we're received. He
Yes,
can share
of
the
course,
sta- he
but
can
we're
share
not part of the
statement work
process.
That drives the design with us
Yeah.
before it gets in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Okay.
as Dan Satursky said, he was not even asking, Dan, if I heard you correctly, that we necessarily have another board meeting or that we vote on it, right?
No.
Yeah,
They just
right,
have to
right,
see it.
okay. So we're cool with that.
Okay, here's,
Yeah, that's
we
fine.
followed the same process that we followed to get to tonight. We basically turn and keep the project management of this in the hands of our general manager, and that we have a checkpoint. We asked for a report back on the public and what they wanted to say, and what other people said, we got that. In my mind, the next checkpoint is communicating with all of us. We've got the opportunity to stay involved with what's going on. But to me, the next checkpoint is the results of when the bids come back and we get from Bob all of the input that have come from all these people. They've had all the opportunity to be creative as they want to be. Our next checkpoint, before we go any further, is what are the results from that RFP and what is the proposal of the team? Because that's where we are, that's how we got to tonight. And that would be my suggestion, that the checkpoint, if you will, calling it that, is go to that point of receiving back the bids and selecting the solution that you support, and then report back to the board.
And Tom, if I may, Don, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. And to Dan's point earlier, though, as Bob, Dan, as he sends stuff out, to share it with us too, so that we have it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Not that we need to meet and discuss it.
No,
vote on
I
it.
just would like to stop being a mushroom.
I agree with you.
You know what a mushroom is?
Move the
We-
previous
we're
question.
agreed, right? Okay.
We're gonna move on. to the
Okay,
next
and then-
topic. I'm gonna give you a few minutes to write
Okay,
your
fair enough.
motion that gets it correctly. If you don't mind, Bill, to get us to that checkpoint. Due to the time, I'm gonna suggest right now that we move to the budget discussion,
That's fine.
if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
We may or may not get back to the record,
That'd be fine.
to the status of delinquent of the bylaws issues at this point. But due to the time, I would
We'll
like
sure
to
to
move
collect
to the
the money
budget
anyway.
discussion and open it for discussion, questions. We've been through this a couple times now. People have had months and many, many opportunities to sit down with Bob. Are there any final questions, issues that folks want to ask questions about?
If I may ask, we're skipping the lifetime golf membership program?
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
going
yes.
right to budget right
Okay,
now.
that's
We'll
the
come back to that.
Yeah, that's a little,
Okay.
We'll come back to that. We won't end the evening without getting to that, but I want to make sure we get to the budget.
Tom, how do you wish to handle it? Because we do have a motion. I have a motion. Do you want to get the motion on the table and then discuss the motion?
That would be fine. We can do it that way.
I mean, it's a simple motion.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Well, why don't I do that then?
Fine.
Why don't I, okay, I will put forward the following motion. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors hereby approves the proposed budget for fiscal year 2013, which budget was modified following presentation to the membership at the public hearing on January 21, 2012, and which budget reflects total revenues of $9,696,342 and operating expenses and transfers of the same amount, a basic assessment of $873, and capital expenditures of $3,889,450, and loan principal payments of $51,249.
Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Second, by
Okay.
discussion.
Oh,
What happened, you first.
I didn't even have my hand up. Okay, I'll be pretty quick. I don't have any questions on the budget. I think I've read as much as I've got, although some of it fairly recent. Okay, basically, I'm not going to support the motion. I'm not going to support this budget. I'll just give you a couple reasons why, not too long. Unlike any budget I've seen in the last 5 years, I mean, this budget makes a very nominal $30 annual increase by leaving the OPA into debt. I'm against taking out a $450,000 loan to pay for golf drainage. You know, that may only add another $8 or so to the annual assessments over the next 15 years. But it's really the tip of the iceberg. As shown in the 5-year plan, the total expenditures for drainage through 2017, total expenditures is estimated at $2.4 million. I do not believe that is the best way to finance a program, which up to now we have been financing as we went along on a periodic basis. My opinion, that's. The budget purports to pay for a major capital expenditure, the Greens, through a scheme, and we're going to hear about it, which I believe up to this point is purely speculative, and would result in even deeper debt for the association. I look at it as just another form of as in this case, this money was taken from replacement reserves, and we've been through that before, that I believe were funded by the depreciation of different depreciable assets. There is no plan that I can see to replace these for their original purpose, other than to borrow more money or to increase assessments in the future. That's what it's really all about. $30 this year is nothing. It's what's going to happen after this. This will be the last year of assessment increases for the 5-year plan, something I've supported over the last 5 years.
Actually, it's the fourth out of 5.
Fourth?
Yeah, it's fourth out of 5.
That's only too bad. However, in all of that period, I've only seen one expenditure worth noting, and that was that emergency replacement for the swim and racket club for the pool. And the deck, and a little bit over $500,000. Now, I have to take the last part of what I'm saying because I'm encouraged that Bob has brought up the fact that we're going more in one direction and something that we can
not have any plans, it's not been thought out. And I have difficulty saying we're just going to collect things without doing anything. And the last thing, and this is, I'm sure many will disagree with my, and maybe some won't, is that I believe that in general, in this budget, that there has been no substantive business plans offered that support any action aspect of the operational budget center. We've asked for them, we've been told we had them. I do not agree that we have that. So that's all I have to say. Another comment? Dan?
Mr. President, we've got a new reserve summary sheet that probably is very important along with the assessment breakdown sheet for this budget. And I'd like to just hit the highlights on those two things for make sure that our treasurer does agree with my interpretation for once. And secondly, that everybody in the room, including the people sitting at this table, see what's happening. As one of our commenters earlier this evening pointed out, the primary job of this board is to preserve our assets. On the reserves page, the balance as of May 1st, 2012, in our reserves will be $4,434,969. After contributions and expenditures according to this budget, the balance on April 30th, 2013 will be $4,751,744, which is a slight bit over $300,000 more in reserves than there were when we started the year. We have, under this budget, reserved assets and added to them. In order to do that, one of the things that we needed to do was to maintain the 5-year plan that has been started 4 years ago. That changes our assessments from a base of $843 to a base of $873. In other words, there are no changes to our base assessment for operating expenses or any other anticipated expenses in Ocean Pines, except for the major capital expenditures that form the foundation of the 5-year plan. And that costs us $30 a year. I got here talking to people about money in Ocean Pines and about raising assessments and not raising assessments and why assessments got raised. In a year, when the economy is down, a budget that says our operating expenses, even though gas is going up, even though services are going up, even though medical costs are going up, is not going to change, represents to me a damn good piece of work on the part of the general manager. Saying that we're going to add $30 a year to the expenses that's shared by all 8,446 of us in order to pay for the buildings that we all know need to start getting some really active work is one of the best bargains that I've ever walked into. So, contrary to what you might have thought, I'm going to support this budget happily. I think it's a good one.
Any comments? Well, I have a couple comments. And one of them I'm going to piggyback on what Dan just said. I want to publicly commend Bob and his team for sticking to a commitment of keeping the operational side of our budget level. That was an absolutely fabulous job. It's a stretch, it's a risk, without question. This is a budget, it's a target, and I sure hope you can make it, because I commend you for, the easy thing would have been to come back and say, hey, give me an extra $15 here, and you didn't do that, and I commend you for that. And I also agree that the continuance of the 5-year plan is absolutely critical to the ongoing facility management and maintenance that we need to be committed to. So obviously, I'm going to support this budget.
I'm going to support the budget motion that I've made here, but I just want to make one comment, basically. Echoing what Dan said earlier and somewhat reflecting upon what Dave said. And Dave, I absolutely respect what you're saying, but the 5-year plan that we are now in the 4th year of, and I think everybody heard your correction there, it's the 4th year of the 5-year plan. That really started back when Dan Stachersky was on the board last. When the board he was on recognized that we had multi-million dollars of expenditures coming down the pipe. And they took action as a board at that particular time to recognize that and to put into place a mechanism that they thought would be adequate to put away the additional sums of money. As it turned out, subsequent boards changed that, circumstances changed that, and we had to start over basically with a 5-year plan. But he and his board, those people at that time, recognized what we recognize today, 6 years later. And Dave, with all due respect, no, we haven't approved the plan, but for God's sake, we know that these buildings are going to need multi-million dollars in expenditures. His board knew it. Your board, first board knew it. This board knows it. We have a plan to deal with it, to fund those expenditures over this period of time. As it's a rational way to do it. It's a way that does it in a controlled, predictable way. I remember predictable was the word used by my fellow director Dave Stevens once upon a time. So I thank Bob Thompson for incorporating that into the budget. I thank the board for including it in the guidance. Again, as Director Stevens said a couple of years ago, as he pounded his fist on the desk, damn it, the plan is working, leave it alone. So that's all I'm going to say. It's reflecting what we have ahead of us. That we haven't approved anything. We haven't approved anything yet. We haven't approved a yacht club of X and a this club of that Y. But for heaven's sakes, we all know and acknowledge it, and this is the way to pay for it without having large assessment increases in the future. And that is critical, I think, to the community to understand that we have as a board, this board and prior boards, put into place a mechanism that allows for all these multi-million dollars of expenditures to be paid for over a 10-year period without a spike in dues increase. That's what was achieved, and I thank everybody for participating.
Terry, Bill?
Yes, to follow up with that, in addition, I feel that, and as a board, we have a moral and ethical responsibility to maintain and take care of the assets that were given to us by Boise Cascade. And not to do that, I feel will be very irresponsible.
I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
6-1.
Motion passes. And we can go back to your motion, Bill.
Okay. I move that the Board of Directors direct the General Manager to continue development of one project, i.e. the Yacht Club project, in accordance with the schedule you presented to us this evening, February 21st, 2012, at our board meeting, and to bring to the board his proposal resulting from the RFP process.
Proposals.
Proposal.
Right. Okay.
I'll maintain my second on that.
Good.
Discussion.
Can I hear the last part again, Bill?
Yeah, and to bring to the board his proposals resulting from the RFP process. Proposal.
I think it's not his proposals, but the proposals. Yeah, the
Okay,
proposals.
there's
Not
nothing in
his
there
proposals.
about showing us the statement of work or,
Not in the motion.
well, I don't know what we were talking about there.
I'll answer that, Dave. Let me answer that. I think we are talking about working hand in hand with people without requiring a vote every time we do something.
Thank you.
I think we can roll up our sleeves and sit down with Bob and work with him and get a copy of what's going out and review it and think about it without us having to come back to this board to vote on what is going out to the RFP and vote what's going and vote again and vote again. That's my 2 cents, my nickel, if you will, that we look for this staff to run this project and that we as board members have an opportunity to discuss what's going on, to get a sense of it, to sit down, to talk. But to Dan's point, we don't need to come back and vote on every step of this, from my understanding.
Did that word come out of my mouth?
No, I didn't say it did. Dan, good.
I was first.
Okay.
He's got his tape here with him too.
And I'm not at
I
all.
got the nugget.
Unwrap
Unwrapped.
that tape.
Unwrapped it.
I'll hand it to, anyway.
I'm in charge of the table.
This is not unlike last month. We as a board passed a resolution to authorize the president to enter into a contract. Someone said, I want to see the contract before you sign it. We didn't amend the motion to do that. The president gave his word that he would share it with us. I heard Bob Thompson say to us he would share it, and I don't think I need to not trust him enough to put it in the damn motion. I trust him. I trusted Tom Terry to give us the contract, and he did. You know, we spent how much time? We didn't spend a lot of time, but we spent time here tonight talking for about the fourth time about the project over there at the administration building. What you all don't know is there have been multiple requests to dig out invoices and go through things. We got to start trusting around here. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. I don't think we need to amend the motion.
Dan?
You know, I think we can stop arguing with each other with a very simple piece of logic. And that's that it's up to the board and the general manager to get this project together so that we can do what really needs to be done. And that's take it to the community and say, okay, do you buy or don't you buy? That's who makes the decision, not this board, not Bob Thompson, but 8,446 property owners. The only way we can do that is to get this into a position where it goes to referendum. The sooner we do that, the faster we'll know whether we should move forward or change a whole bunch of things in this current budget. End of story.
I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
7-0.
7-0. Okay.
Thank you.
Back to the lifetime membership, Mr. Thompson.
One of the things that was requested with the Golf Greens project, and I hope this demystifies, I really am not trying to scheme on this, I do believe this will work. We talked about coming up with a membership-supported process through, and this was presented several months ago as an option, to come up with a lifetime membership where the golf members would be participatory with the project costs. What we've done is, as I promised at the last meeting, I'd bring the lifetime golf membership agreement to the board. We kept it at a one-page agreement, simplified agreement. The second page reflects the actual price points at which you enter into the agreement. It has been vetted through two attorneys, one on the contract review committee who actually helped us create this, and then Mr. Moore as well. Once you guys, again, I said passed out for everyone to see it. This is what we'll employ as we start the Greens project.
And Bob, again, I think each of the items in here was part of the motion that was passed by the board back when it passed it.
Yes.
So there's nothing new in here. It sets forth exactly what we said and put in writing in the motion that was previously passed.
Do we need a motion?
Well, Mr. President, we might want to consider giving the first signer and payer of this thing a large brass trophy to hang on its wall.
There you go.
Make that happen.
Tom, that's a good. We really don't need any formal action. Are there any objections? I suppose I would ask. It's pretty
It
simple.
just needed to be legalized.
All right.
Proceed.
Thank you for the update. Okay. I'm going to work myself down 2 steps. Dave, we have a FO4 review that I think you're reminding us of that we haven't done yet.
Yeah, basically, I would suggest that we defer that to the next meeting, and just let me say that the members or the directors should review FO4, look for potential changes. There's some changes that will be offered by the Budget and Finance Committee, but I'm sorry, not the Budget and Finance. The bylaws are and I believe it's subject to delinquencies coming up, but I think I would like to introduce a discussion of that topic at the next meeting.
Yeah, we're at the second reading on this review, or are we going into the first?
No, this is not a reading, this is no approval required, and actually you don't have to do anything at all if you don't want to. But what we do is we review all of the resolutions every 2 years on a scheduled basis, and that's part of the resolution itself. So well, yeah, you can get up to stuff and then also see whether or not circumstances have changed.
So we can defer that to the next meeting, Dave?
Okay. Pete, what do you want to do? It's up to you.
I'm prepared to address this. There's no action required, by the way. This is not a motion. There's no action required on the part of the board. It's an annual reporting out of a committee that is convened under the resolution F04, and the board may choose to defer. It calls for the completion of the work prior to March 1. But again, no board action required. I'm prepared to speak to it. I can do it next month, but I'm going away for a couple of weeks.
Can we get a report electronic?
Oh, sure. What do you mean electronic?
Well, I mean, on the computer or a paper copy, I don't care, I guess. You wrote a report, right?
Yes, I did.
That's what you're going to give. So,
No, everybody has it.
We have it already.
Yeah. You've got a hard copy there.
Yeah, we
You
have
have
Oh, I
it.
didn't see
You
it.
have it.
Okay, I didn't see that yet. Okay,
That's fair.
Yeah.
You just got it.
Yeah, it was late because we had sickness, we had holiday, we had.
I came in a plain brown wrapper.
I would personally rather read it and discuss it next month. I like to do things first and then.
Really?
Yeah. And then.
Except for the motions you bring at the table.
And then talk about it. I don't bring them.
No, I'm kidding, Dan.
Wait a minute.
Get that tape.
Let that tape out for both of you.
I'm happy to defer it to.
All right, we'll
the next
defer it
meeting.
to the next meeting.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Pending action list, we will defer that as well, Bill, although I do want to say in the next board meeting, per Bill's suggestion, and I agree, we are going to have a discussion of our board's yearly objectives and where are we in the process of attaining them. So that will be on the agenda for next meeting. Let me make sure I got everything checked out. Turn my glasses back on. Okay, we have 3 advisory committee appointments. And then we have Marie Gilmore for the Recs and Parks. I can do these together.
Without objection.
Okay. Kathy Muncy for the Elections Committee. And Pat Beisler for the Clubs Committee. Any objections? No? All right, I will sign off on all of those. And we will adjourn for...
May I ask one question?
Yes, you can.
Dan, I need your input on this. Have you signed the application for the Memorial Park for the placement of the shed that's going out there? No. Okay. If I may just put this out here for a moment, this was approved before, but this was the plan for the Memorial Park, Veterans Memorial Park, the placement of the shed, and I promised the board that when I got the plan, I would just bring it for everyone to see exactly where the shed's being placed. So I just wanted to make sure that I circulated that today. I was going to do it in a special meeting a week and a half ago, but I was asked to wait to do it, during a regular scheduled board meeting. So I just want to make sure that I pointed that out. I would have added it to the agenda, but I didn't know if Dan had done that or not.
It's actually, what your plans don't show is the tree line.
Tree line, correct.
The shed is actually hidden back into the tree line.
Correct.
It's fine with me. The lake's
Back here, yep, there it is.
It's back there, the lake is right here.
Okay, Dan, I will accept the motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Pete, you want
I
to
just want to clarify something. Okay, I want to clarify something. You all have the written report. We'll put it on the agenda next meeting to receive questions.
Very good.
Okay? The report speaks for itself. And I'll be happy to respond. Okay, Dave? All right. Yeah, okay.
We will adjourn to closed legal session.
The other builder. We need to sign off the debt. I didn't see any problem with it, but I encountered a lot of.